Hello and welcome to the Car Care channel and welcome to the 2023 Lexus ES. The Lexus ES is one of the original Lexus models, one that is very popular, very good. And in 2023, Lexus decided to do a small update. It's not a major overhaul. They did a few updates. So in this video, we're going to find out if those updates were good or not right after this. Let's take a look under the hood. So they updated the Lexus ES for 2023, but the good news are they skipped the powertrain completely with this update, which is a good thing. You still have three possibilities of powertrains. One of them in the ES350, which is my favorite, the V6 2GR FKS. It's an old school V6, very smooth, decently powerful, still gets good gas mileage. About the only technology that engine has is the direct injection, which is not really normal direct injection, just for those that worry about carbon buildup. It is actually D4S, so you still have port and direct injection. And if you're curious if these systems actually work to not build carbon, I have a video where we investigated that. I'll leave that right here. Now, the 2GR FKS is an old school V6. No turbo, no supercharger, nothing. Very simple, very familiar setup. It takes its roots all the way back to 2005 when the 2GR first came out. Does have plastic valve covers, which some people have voiced concern about, but so far so good. We don't have issues with the plastic valve covers. Now the second drivetrain that the ES can come with, which is my least favorite, is the ES250 with the all-wheel drive. For some reason, Toyota and Lexus decided when we put a transfer case, we no longer have space for a V6, so they put a four-cylinder, and that four-cylinder is the A25A FKS. While it is a great engine, it is a little on the buzzy and loud side. Kind of kills the quiet and peace and tranquility of the ES. That's why it's my least favorite, but it's still a pretty good, competent engine. If you must have all-wheel drive, that is the only option you have. Then there is the 300H, which is this one, the hybrid one. So this still has the A25A FXS modified for the hybrid version. I think this one is actually also one that I really like. So while it is a four-cylinder and while it can be loud and buzzy, it does have an ECVT, you have the moments of silence when it goes into EV mode, and plus it is not as underpowered as just the A25A alone. And the gas mileage it gets is pretty impressive. And the way it drives, and this is a fourth generation hybrid system, so things are seamless. The transitions are seamless, everything is super smooth, super quiet, super refined, very fitting of the Lexus ES. Now the ES350 with the V6 is still my favorite because it really matches the character of this car. But this powertrain has been out for a few years, and folks, for those who are wondering, this with the fancy little engine cover on it that says Lexus, this is exactly the same powertrain with the P710 transmission as the Toyota Camry, the Toyota RAV4, and a few others like the Toyota Venza as well. This is exactly the same powertrain, down to the transmission, down to everything. And the best part about all these three engine options is that they're directly copied from Toyota. I mean, the ES250 has the exact same powertrain as the Toyota Camry. The ES350 has the exact same powertrain from a Camry V6. So they don't use premium gas, and that is potentially a huge plus for the ES. I mean, many luxury cars, it's almost like they purposely make them premium fuel just to have that premium feeling you're driving a luxury car, but people actually don't like that. Case in point, the GX460. Why does it take premium fuel? It has the exact same engine as a Tundra, but it takes premium fuel because in Lexus's eyes, that premium fuel requirement makes you feel special. In reality, it really makes your wallet feel unspecial when it's always empty. But this one, it's just business as usual. Service of these, exactly like a Camry. Basically, upkeep and repair is to be expected the same as a Camry. which is an everyday car. You have cabs that are Camrys. You have people putting hundreds of thousands of miles in a matter of a few years on Camrys. And this is the same thing, exactly the same thing. And that is a huge plus. You buy these three powertrains, don't think about reliability, because they will be reliable. Because there's so many of these engines everywhere that parts will not be an issue. Exclusivity, like you have to find that specialist to work on, not really. These are very basic and kind of tried and true drivetrains. And I'm so happy that in 2023, they did not update any of that. It remains exactly the same. Now the hybrid system here, very simple. I mean, hybrids are no longer something to be looked at as complicated. Two cooling systems. The battery, it sits underneath the back seat. Business as usual. You have two filters on the side. You actually got to make sure they're kept clean if you want that battery to last, and don't obstruct them. Things are very simple here, folks. I really like that they didn't change the powertrains here. Let's take a look underneath the 2023 Lexus ES. First thing, of course, every single new car is like that. Everything is very well covered up, and this contributes to how quiet this thing is. Service, very simple, very similar, like we talked about. This is basically a Camry. Few bolts, you remove this cover, and oil filter is exposed. If you want to service transmission or coolant, then this is where things get a little more involved. You have to remove this entire cover and the front for transmission, for coolant, but few bolts, few clips, and it comes right out. Nothing really complicated about it. Then we look at the front suspension. Single piston caliper, which is interesting. You would think a two piston caliper would be an upgrade, especially like from a Highlander or an RX, but they have a single piston caliper. Then the knuckle is steel. It is not aluminum. And that's kind of your old school touch. Very familiar design here. Control arm, lower ball joint is separate. Very, very standard. Now, one thing that they have changed, which is interesting, the tie rod end right here is actually aluminum. I would have loved to see this still be steel and then the knuckle be aluminum. That's okay, but that's what they did. And then continuing on to their new theme of adding plastic caps. I see them on the sway bar links. I see them on the strut tops. We didn't talk about it when we were under the hood. It's pretty interesting that they're starting to add that, and I hope I see that in more and more models. As we make our way back, this is a catalytic converter. This is not the main catalytic converter. This is a cleanup catalytic converter. It's pretty exposed, unfortunately. We do have some braces here, but that's how it is. One thing I want to note on this little rubber hose is actually the AC drain. Usually they'll put the AC drain in a place where it fills this cover, and all of a sudden you drive and it leaves a giant puddle. I like how they put it through this time, which is pretty cool. As we make our way back here, now this is a hybrid, so the fuel tank will be at a slightly different location. This is where the fuel tank is at. I mean, just looking at this is exactly the same fuel tank as a Camry, folks. That's not a bad thing. Don't take that as a bad thing, because simplicity. Everything is very simple. Batteries underneath the back seat. We look at the back suspension. It is exactly the same as a Camry back suspension. Nothing really about it. This does have the adaptive suspension, which does add a little actuator on the side of the shock, but all that does is firms up the suspension and takes it away. Nothing really groundbreaking or new or unique or different or expensive. Yes, when they do have issues, but that's the cost of having adaptive suspension. Rear suspension, they call it double wishbone. I don't see why they call it that, but you do have a lower control arm, springs, the shocks are on the side, and things that are becoming pretty standard. Every single Toyota you look underneath is going to look very, very similar. Rear brakes, also, they have the electronic parking brake. Very, very simple. People dislike these and they think they are complicated and all that. They are not. That's not the case, because it's pretty simple to service, pretty simple to work on. There is nothing really about it. And then the exhaust wraps up. This is a hybrid model. It has a single muffler. Pretty simple, doesn't really have a tip or something. It just wraps around and kept it simple. Now, we have to give a mention. There is very heavy emphasis in the kind of the technical data on this car about this little tiny little flap that is supposed to do a lot. And mechanics and car engineers usually don't get along, but we try. I try here. So whoever designed this little flap that I don't see doing anything, this is supposed to mean a lot. Don't know what exactly it does. Perhaps it deflects air, but there's the credit for that engineer that made a huge deal about this little flap. Let's take a look at the outside of the Lexus ES. And the first thing is, this is a very good looking car. I really like this front end, and it has like a certain sophistication to it. It's classy look. I like the triple beams in the headlight. They are active. They move. Everything looks right in this front end, down to the, I know spindle grille, people really dislike it. I think it looks right here. I really like it. Now, a little bit on the technical side of things. Behind this is the radar sensor. This, in 2023, did actually get an update for the safety tech. So radar sensor got updated, the camera, the recognition camera. So one thing I want to talk about, because a lot of people have mentioned this with Lexus. You have two things here. This, the triangle one, is the front recognition camera. That is the official name for it. That's what picks up your pedestrians, it picks up your speed signs, stop signs, and whatnot. The other one is actually just a wiper sensor. So basically, you put your wiper on automatic. The sensor, when it gets water on top of it, it picks up that there's rain, and then the wipers start going. Just to clarify that. Now, as we go around the side of the Lexus ES, this particular area, if you look here at this shape, this is actually very similar to the previous generation, which is interesting how they kept the same characteristic while making this very beautiful front end. And then this is something Lexus has been doing on many models. You have this body line that comes here and just kind of disappears. It almost makes it like this is a plane, this is another plane, and then we have another dimension here. Very cool design, almost makes it like pointing towards the very tip of the front. As we go towards the side, things are extremely simple. About the only thing that is really a feature is the roof line. You notice it almost has, they're trying, and unsuccessfully, to make it look like a coupe. Kind of like has this swoop at the very back, and you have this belt line that comes up and they meet. They tried to do that, but it didn't really. The only thing it did is when you get in the back seat, we'll talk a little bit about it when we look at the interior, when you get in the back seat, this does get in your way if you're tall. Otherwise, this is basically a featureless side. And it's such a classy look that doesn't have too much going on for it. Mirrors, this is the old school Lexus mirror, folding of course, pretty simple, nice and sophisticated. Now this car can come with a regular sunroof, like this one does, or a panoramic sunroof as an option, which is something nice because its sister car, the Avalon, the outgoing Avalon, which they don't make anymore, never did that. And that's something interesting, at least the ES does. Something that I love about the ES, and I'll tell you why it is this way. You open the door, you close it, it just makes this thud. Let's listen to it. It's like a very muffled thud. And the reason for that is, this is something that Lexus has been doing, and even some Toyotas. If you look right here, they have this seal that it does absolutely nothing but muffle the sound of the door. Pretty interesting. They've been doing this for a long time, but I love to see that it's still here. They still care about this little details, like the thud of the door, which is very satisfying. I love it. The backs also do have a nice thud to them, but not like the fronts because they do not have that seal. You notice that hollowness, while this one just have a thud. I love that. As we go through the back, this is where initially it was kind of like, I don't know. but it's starting to grow on me. I really like this look. It does have kind of a narrow shape to it. I don't know what's the best way to describe it, but I like the way this looks. It also remains somewhat classy. Now this is a hybrid, doesn't have really tailpipes or anything, but it is a nice look in the back. And of course, this being an F Sport design, by the way, it does have the spoiler right here, which a little bit out of character, but it's not too much, which is nice. Now, while we're here, let's look at the trunk. And this is where, sedans are kind of going away. Power operated trunk. I have to say something about Lexus, two things. This is a very slow operating trunk. It's not as fast as other makes, how much it opens and closes, but it is very quiet. Like when you go to something like a Mercedes-Benz, you push it, it opens very rapidly, but it makes a lot of noise. You hear the motor. This one is super quiet. There's a lot of room here. Of course, this is a relatively big sedan with a little old schoolness. Once you peel the 17 layers, we have a spare tire. Space saver spare tire, not a full size, but hey, spare tires are becoming an option on cars, folks. This one, of course, being old school, it does have a proper spare tire with its own hook to hook it onto the weather strip. This is something Toyota and Lexus has been doing for a very long time. So in case you own one of these cars and you didn't know that, well, that's what the hook is for. So you can access your spare tire easily. I really like the simplicity here. This is a trunk. It's meant to store stuff. There doesn't need to be much going on here. And that's exactly the case. And of course, the slow, silent closing trunk. This is very slow in the automotive industry, folks, but it is very silent. And I suppose that is nice. Let's take a look at the interior of the 2023 Lexus ES. And this is really where the majority of the updates happen. First thing is, gone is the Lexus touchpad, which we do not miss one bit. Replaced with Lexus's latest infotainment system. I really like this infotainment system. It does have a lot of features. It's very responsive. It has wireless Apple CarPlay and many other features that are really cool and modern. It's not too much where it's too invasive, but it is a very nice touch of modernness. Now, one thing has to be said about this modern infotainment system. It is glitchy, and there are times where it just disconnects and freezes and does this and that. I hope they come out with software updates to fix that, but that is the price of having too complicated of an infotainment system. Too much going on with the software. It's not something old school and really doesn't do much. It's very glitchy, and that's just the way it is with every modern infotainment system. Now, the one thing they did really well, when they went to this system, they didn't go the NX, RX route where they just threw everything out, made everything in the screen. No, your HVAC controls, all physical. The volume button or knob stayed exactly where it is, which is a really good spot. Your seat heaters and coolers and steering wheel heater, physical buttons. Folks, this is a perfect combination, in my opinion, of modernness and convenience, or old schoolness for that matter. Because you have a modern touch screen that is very capable, very responsive, and very fast, glitchy at times. But then you have everything else, physical button. Works really well. You don't have to go through the screen, fumbling through 7 menus just to turn on your seat heater. No, it's a button. You just press it, it's on, press it, it's off. You want to change the temperature? Oh well, it's just a little toggle. You want to change where the fan speed is? It's all in front of you. You don't need to go looking through a screen. And something interesting that they did, and slowly Lexus is getting rid of, this has a proper clock. There's something special about having a proper clock in a car these days that is slowly disappearing from luxury cars because they want to look modern and sleek, and this is grandpa's clock, we don't want it. Well, this one has it. Something else they did here. So because the touchpad is gone in the middle, the wireless charger is right here, which is actually a very good spot. You don't even have to think and worry where your phone is going. You just put it right here. Something else that is gone, and so many people will be so happy, even though it was not the end of the world that it was there. The CD player is gone. Sorry, Grandpa, you can't play your CDs anymore. I suppose nobody really uses CDs anymore these days, so I'm not going to say good riddance because it really didn't affect anything in the past, but it is gone for those that really get offended when they see CD players a lot. It's gone, so there you have it. Something else about this interior, in case you are watching this the first time and you really don't have experience or kind of watched other reviews of the ES in the past. This interior, to sum it up, it is one of the most comfortable, super well designed, and its intent and purpose in life is to make you feel at peace, comfortable, happy. Not happy as in exhilarating and it's super emotional drive. No, happy as in you're super comfortable and you don't have to think about anything. This will just cocoon you. It is super quiet, super refined. All the materials are extremely nice. It is super well put together, very easy to operate, and you don't feel at any point that this car can outsmart you. No, it is meant to make you comfortable. You get in. This is a perfect daily driver luxury car because it doesn't have too much technology where it's too much in your face and it has too much. It requires a lot of No, it's very basic, and that's the best part about this, folks. I mean, everything here is super well made and super nice to touch. When you drive this car, it's so quiet. It is just incredible. Even modern luxury cars, they're slowly starting to focus more on technology and features and gizmos than the basic premise of luxury cars. Quietness and refinement. Slowly, they're starting to slip. This is also becoming one of its kind, that it has old school luxury touches. Simple things that I love about this car. And this is the stuff that unless you like old school luxury, you won't really get to appreciate. Example, the center console lid. It opens like that. It's very simple. But it also opens the other way. That is very convenient because if your passenger wants to get something, they don't have to really get in your side and go like this. No, they can just open it like this. And they're in. Beautiful. And then the other thing, there is a very little place where your USB and USB-C port is, but those USB and USB ports have a tiny little door that ever so gently closes, just to hide it, so you can have that perfect closed section. I mean, if this did not have this little door, it wouldn't have made any difference. But just having this door and how satisfying it is, that it's heavy to open, and when you close it, it just ever so softly closes, tells you where they were headed with this interior. In this entire interior, I have one thing that I dislike. You touch the headliner, it is a super soft material. But then you touch the A pillar and the B pillar. It's a different material, and it does feel slightly cheap. Not the end of the world, but again, this is a focused car, and in this entire interior, that is the only thing that you might or might not notice about the materials. Let's take a look at the back seat of the Lexus ES. Now, I sat on the passenger side, but I did set up this seat to my driving position. I mean, I have plenty of room. I am 5'7", by the way, just to give you a reference. This is a very, very comfortable place for adults and children. The one thing, and this is really not the 23 update that I have to mention. So because of the design of the ES, they wanted to make it kind of a swoop design. This edge right here of the roof does intrude in your way if you're taller. I do distinctly remember a tall friend sat in the back and he mentioned this, and it doesn't affect me at my height, but if you're taller, this will be potentially a thing. Only in the back seat, not the front seat. But things here are very, very refined. I mean, I love how everything is just nice. Everything you touch, everything you feel on the door, the back of the seat, with the exception of one thing, we're going to talk about it in a second. Everything is super nice and very, very comfortable. Now, the back of the seat, it's leather up to this point, and then the rest of it is this hard plastic. Kind of a compromise, and I wish they would have just wrapped the whole thing with leather. Not the end of the world, but I have to point it out in this review. Now, something else about the ES, the back seats don't fold. You just have the little opening right here, so things, skis or whatever goes through, but the seats don't fold back. Not the end of the world, because technically it's a luxury car. You're not going to use it as your pickup truck. For that, you can buy a Camry. But again, something have to be mentioned. This is a very defined back seat, very comfortable, very nice, and this is what the promise of this car is, to put you at peace when you're sitting in it. Not to exhilarate you or thrill you, but to really make you feel peaceful and comfortable. Let's talk about some things I do not like about the Lexus ES. And the truth have to be said, I really love this car. I mean, it is a breath of fresh air. It is a proof that there's still hope in the automotive industry for those who want true luxury cars that are focused, simple, and just proper. But there is one elephant in the room, the F Sport. So for 2023, Lexus has two trims of F Sport. One of them is the one that I implore you not to buy, unless you want to take the primary reason you buy this car and ruin it, and that would be the F Sport handling. I'm sorry, folks, this will never, ever, no matter what you do to it, short of Gazoo Racing taking this car and just throwing everything it has and making everything from new, it will never handle well. They're not meant to do that, and they will never do that. So I don't care what trim you get, handling or not, it will still handle like a good old boat, grandpa's car, but you will have a jarring ride. So basically, if you go with the F Sport handling, you will have a super jarring ride, and it's still not going to be exhilarating or exciting to drive. But they did do one thing that is well. So historically, I've always liked how the F Sport trim looks like, looks-wise. Looks sharp, looks chiseled. Maybe if you're younger, you will like the look of the F Sport. But you always had to be punished with the jarring ride. But now, in 2023, we have actually an F Sport design trim, which basically gives you the look of the F Sport without the jarring suspension, which is actually what you want in some cases. Or you can still get the luxury or the ultra luxury, which is not have the F Sport look, and you still get the nice ride. Folks, I really dislike the F Sport handling trim. That's about the only thing I don't like about the ES, because it goes against the nature of the ES. It absolutely makes no sense, and please, don't consider it. I hope Lexus would stop with this F Sport madness and just, fine, make the handling package, make your guys happy at design team, but keep the design package. Because some people will just want it to look a little nicer or a little different, but still have the nice driving and smooth, kind of plush interior that is comfortable and nice. We don't need the jarring ride that still doesn't handle well. So should you buy a 2023 Lexus ES? Folks, without sugarcoating this and saying the truth, I think this is the perfect Lexus ES. And I think this update was done so well, I'm really happy with it. And here's why. See, they did not update the important things, the things that we don't want them to update. If they were going to update this further than this, it would be like the Lexus RX and the NX. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with these two. But then you lose all the easy stuff. Everything becomes a little bit more complicated. It becomes too much. And then the V6 will be gone, be replaced with a 4-cylinder. Again, nothing wrong with that. But that's one of the special things about the Lexus ES, the V6. How smooth it is, how beautiful it delivers power. And it's not a very powerful, exciting engine, but it's smooth. And this is what this car is. You're not going to find a lot of cars in the market today with this combination of good tech, not the greatest, but good, and then good old school features that we want. Doesn't have a CD player for those that always mocked it and made fun of it. Doesn't have the touchpad. It has a modern infotainment system that works. But at the same time, all the controls are physical. You don't have to fumble through 7 menus just to turn on your heated seats. It's very, very simple to operate, and it has modern features. The powertrains are proven, reliable. They're great. I think this is the best 3 powertrains you can get. I don't like the ES250. I think it's too loud and brash, but we still have the 350. you have the hybrid, but it goes more than that. If you've owned a Lexus ES in the past, this will not disappoint you, and if anything, it's gonna really make you happy. Whatever you were not having in the previous ES, this will make you very, very happy because it has everything that the ES should be with a touch of modernness, and that is really nice. And folks, now that Lexus finally got the message, thank you for that. Completely ignore the handling package, F-Sport handling, whatever. This will never handle like a good, proper sports car. Never. Never intended to be. But now, if you like the looks of the F-Sport, you can get the design F-Sport, which looks like an F-Sport, but it has normal suspension that's not going to jar your skull and kind of ruin the entire point of the Lexus ES. I like that. They did that well. And the best thing about this car is people look at this and it's like, this is grandpa's car. This is a boring car until you actually drive it or own one. This is not an exciting car. It's not a thrilling one, but we all have to commute to work. And some of us want to commute to work quietly, comfortably, peacefully. This is what this does best. Because if you have that luxury car that has basically bankrupted you when you keep it longer, but you keep it because you like how it drives and how quiet it is, this is that car. It's a compromise. You compromise a little bit on the driving dynamics for the sake of reliability, durability, luxury, because this is very quiet and very nice inside, and now you have modern amenities. You're not letting go of too many things. Folks, if you have that fun toy car, keep it in the garage, have one of these as a daily driver, you will not be disappointed. And the best part is, it won't even cost you not just the maintenance and the repair and the upkeep, it takes regular gas. That's possibly the best thing about the ES. And if they update this in the future and they get rid of this powertrains and it turns into a premium using car, you will see sales come down. It still uses regular gas, and that's a huge plus in a luxury car. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some other videos. Until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.